We'll be in the book of Daniel. If you want to turn there, we'll be in chapter 6 as we watch Daniel and his growth. If you're visiting with us, we're honored that you've come our way. Actually, we're honored of all that assemble. We would want to be encouraging, and Josh in Bible class this morning quoted something that I said that I feel deeply about. If you're where you belong in Jesus today, everything that's happened to you is good. Everything that's happened to you. We spend a lot of time dividing up our lives with good and bad. When God said, Romans 8:28, all things work together for good to them that are called according to God. And I realize that sometimes I learn more from those that I put in the negative column than I learn from those that I put in the positive column. All the while God telling me all things work together for good. Amen. I quit working on those columns and decided I wanted to grab hold of that verse and realize that everything has brought me to this point. And I have reference to values, that which I feel, and I believe that that's good. We can look as we look at Daniel, and you'll see all over Daniel the attitude of understanding that we're talking about and the strength of commitment that enabled him to take a road that looked like it could be bumpy as opposed to the road that looked like it could be smooth. We're in the 6th chapter, but I'm pretty sure the 6th chapter starts with the 31st verse of the 5th chapter. I studied hard on that before I made that statement. I'm pretty sure that chapter 6 ought to start at 5:31. And it's introduced to us, Darius the Median took, King James says, the kingdom, being about 62 years old. Darius was 62 years old, is what we learn there about him. Now you learn also, and as we've gone through this book up to 6, and in a while, 6 weeks or so, we'll try chapter 7. Trying to give us a rounded diet, not only ice cream for every meal. Maybe many of the meals are what we would consider ice cream, but in my mind, Daniel's definitely one of them. And I look there and I'm introduced to a king, and I learn of that king that he was a Median. Now we saw in chapter 2, there have been 4 world powers. Babylon, which Babylon is where Daniel was taken into captivity. We see in chapter 1 that they lost their homeland. They, Israel, lost their homeland. Some went into Assyrian captivity. Daniel, a part of the southern kingdom, went into Babylonian captivity. And he was taken because he was considered the cream of the crop of all of the people in Judah. Now that's all in chapter 1. Reread it again. I can't go over that because we've covered that fairly recently. And as the cream of the crop, he was taken into Nebuchadnezzar's court. And Nebuchadnezzar wanted to train those young men to have Babylonian values. And he began to train and do what he could to get them to think Babylon. But Daniel stood, and the first trial Daniel had was over food. And he said, we don't want to eat the king's dainties. We want our food. And he withstood the one that was over him, and he said, give us 10 days of eating what we want to eat and see if we don't look better than everyone else, as opposed to eating the king's dainties. The man that had control over them said, all right, I'll give you 10 days. And at the end of 10 days, he could see that Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked more healthy than did all of the others that had eaten the king's dainties. So he allowed them the option of eating as they chose. And as you and I read through the Old Testament, we know that the Jew had many restrictions on his eating. So Daniel gained in the trial of food. And it's interesting how that Daniel has been tested, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego also. For it was they who were thrown into the furnace of fire. And we were encouraged with that because when they looked into the furnace of fire, they saw 4, when they knew they'd only thrown in 3. And maybe they wouldn't have been as surprised had they seen none, but they were real surprised that they'd seen 4. 4 because God was with them in the furnace. And I realized, I learned from that, the commitment they have that God is with them. And Nebuchadnezzar was arrogant over being a world power king. God reduced him in chapter 4. That was chapter 3, the furnace. In chapter 4, to eating with the donkeys and the oxen, eating grass. God humbled Nebuchadnezzar. If God ever humbles you to the point that you see that He is Lord of all, you just gained a beautiful, beautiful understanding. The intent of God through all that's going on in our world is to humble us, to see that He should be the Lord of our lives. That's what God is trying to bring about. And then we don't have any fear of governments or kings or anything else, because our God's in control and He is with us. 4 men in that furnace. Chapter 3, Nebuchadnezzar was humbled. Chapter 4. And then in chapter 5, he brings judgment. And the judgment comes through mene, tekel, upharsin. What did he say there? He said, I have judged you, I have judged you, I have looked at you, and you came up light. You should have had more value. And he brought judgment upon them. And then we move 531 into another tying together story that gives us an opportunity to learn from God. We see what he said in 531. About all I learned about Darius is he was 62 years old. But I learned 3 other things in chapter 9 and verse 1, if you want to look there. And it says, in the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus. I learned his father. Of the seed of the Medes. I learned that he was a Mede. He was not a Persian. It's now Medo-Persia that's the world power. And he's a Mede. Cyrus the Great would be the Persian element of Darius and Cyrus. Oh. Which was made king over the realm of the Chaldean. Those are the Babylonians. He was made king because Medo-Persia has now whipped Babylon. And he's king over the realm there of the Babylonians. he has taken over. So now I know 4 things about Darius that began 531. It goes on now 6:1. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120. One translation says princes, another satraps. It's someone as a chain of command. You've got Darius at the top, you've got 120 under him, but it goes on a little bit further. Those are Persian officials. And verse 2, and over these 3 presidents. So now I'm getting the chain of command. We've got Darius, we've got 3 presidents, and we got 120 princes or satraps that are Persian officials over the people, the realm of all Babylon. Oh, okay, I see it. 3 presidents, King James says, of whom, but one of them was over the 3, and it was Daniel. Now watch it. We're going to learn some things about ourselves. We're going to learn some things about them, but they have an application to ourselves. There are 3 of them, but Daniel is over the other 2. That the princes might give accounts unto them, and the king should have no damage. So the 120 report to the 3 report to Darius. Okay. Then this Daniel was preferred or distinguished above the presidents and princes because of an excellent spirit was in him. Wow. You know what I can learn in chapter 1? That Daniel was an extraordinarily bright young man. But I learned here that he had an excellent spirit. You know, you work with some people and they're extraordinarily bright, but they're prickly on every subject and difficult to work with. Just everything about them makes it hard to work with them. Daniel did not elevate himself here because of his extraordinary intellect, which was a true statement that he had that, but because he had an excellent spirit is how he distinguished himself above the other 2. Many people allow that kind of notoriety and authority to go to their head so hard that they're difficult to deal with. Not Daniel. I want us to know the man, not Daniel. Daniel had authority, but he wasn't hard to work with. He didn't fail to identify with those that were above him and below him in this. And we haven't even gotten to all the people. The 120 are over the people. Daniel is over the other 2 of whichever version you carry, the presidents. He's over them. Well, you know how that stuff goes. Verse 3, then this Daniel was preferred above the presidents and princes because an excellent spirit was in him, and the king thought to set him over the whole realm. So technically it was Darius Daniel. 2 other presidents that were supposed to be equal, but they weren't exactly equal because they didn't have the best attitude. How many times have I shot myself in the foot over having a bad attitude? Not being not smart enough, and sometimes smart enough is what prompts the bad attitude. I'm maybe smart enough to see that this ought to be done differently, and I certainly should be given the authority above these 2 rinky-dinks that I'm working with. And that wasn't the attitude that Daniel adopted. I find it awfully fascinating that his excellent spirit elevated him above others that were his equal. But he goes on, and they're going to set a trap. And you know why they're going to set a trap for Daniel? Watch it now. They're going to set a trap because they're jealous of Daniel. Well, we're supposed to be equals, but look at old Big Shot over there. That's what us two are saying about Daniel. Daniel didn't say he was better than them. Darius said he was better than them. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion. When people start looking for what's wrong with you, they're going to come up with something, believe me. When I start looking for what's wrong with someone, and you know, they're going to struggle with Daniel, but they'll come up with it. Watch them. Find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find none occasion nor fault. Number one, forasmuch as he was faithful. Daniel was honest, just basically honest. And that's what that says. Neither was there any error or fault found in him. He not only was honest, he was capable. Now, how are we going to find fault in that guy? He's not going to be dishonest. And we've already found out that he's got a lot of ability. He's not going to fall short because of his capability. He is honest and capable. What are we going to do to bring him down to our level? We got to find something to bring him down to our level. Watch as they set the trap. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against Daniel. I like that. Except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. We can always blame him about his conviction to Jehovah as opposed to his conviction to Darius. If God's first in your life, there will always be a place for you to be criticized. There will always be a place for you to be criticized. But for someone to say, you annoy me because of your Christianity, I think is a compliment, not a criticism. And I would say, thank you for the compliment. I'm not intending to annoy you, but I'm intending to make it crystal clear that Jesus is the Lord of my life. I would pray that I don't annoy you, but I would not pray that I compromise my commitment to my Jesus. How are they going to get me now? Watch what they do. Except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together. Look at that. We're getting all 120 plus 2 to come up with a way to get Daniel. 122 against 1. Wow. And said unto him, King Darius, live forever. Watch out when people start flattering you. Generally, there's another shoe to drop. And there is in this case, there's another shoe to drop. Live forever. And you know, when people start telling us what we thought about ourselves, that shows us conceit. The king thought he was pretty great, and so when they said live forever, conceit hit. Yeah, I need to live forever. All of y'all need me. I'm extremely special. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together. Look how they bring all the crowd in to try to get the king to make a mistake. But you know what? Sin is the brat nobody wants to claim. And whenever they see it for what it is, then they blame Darius alone. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors and the princes, the counselors and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute. Now, basically, laws are intended for the people. But this law is intended against the people. Not really against the people, against one man, Daniel. And to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee, O king, conceit is now moving, he shall be cast into a den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed. We want to make a law, king, and we want to make a law that will not be changed. We don't want it to be able to be repealed from the books. We want to make a law, only a 30-day law, but a law that nobody can be looked to but you, king, for 30 days. According to the law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. Laws of the Medes and the Persians. Now, we knew Darius to be a Mede, but he also was a king. Cyrus was the king of the Persians. He was going to make a law of the Medes and the Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. The trap is now about to be sprung. You've got my outline. 9:1-3 is the promotion of Daniel. 9:4-9 is the trap set. 9:10 begins the trap being sprung. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, we can make a lot of mistakes in ignorance, but Daniel knew what they were trying to do. Everything that Daniel was, his character, his integrity, is now right out on the table. He knew the trap had been set for him. What will Daniel do? What would you do? He knew that the writing was signed. He went into his house, and his windows being open. Boy, I underline that. Daniel, why don't you at least close the windows? He said, because my heart is in Jerusalem. And I've always prayed to Jerusalem, looking at Jerusalem out my window. I'm not changing now to accommodate hiding from these who would trap me. Boy, can we hear that? I'm not changing my conduct to accommodate those who would trap me. Windows being opened in his chamber toward Jerusalem. His heart was in Jerusalem. He kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed. It's good to know that Daniel was a praying man. And gave thanks before his God, as he did aforetime. Daniel, can't you just compromise a little bit and know that the rest of your life, it's only a 30-day decree, Daniel. Can't you for 30 days just work with us? No. Then these men assembled. Look at there. They got the whole group together. Everyone needs to be able to testify of what they saw. And found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. They knew what he was going to do, and then he did it. And they knew it was the only way to trap Daniel, because he was honest and he was capable. Wow. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Look at there. Grown men tattletales. That's what we got here. And they asked it in a question. Sounds like they might not be sure. Oh yeah, they were sure. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, the thing is true. According to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. It's true and I can't fix it. You could make it, but you can't fix it? Then answered they and said before the king, that Daniel which is of the children of the captivity of Judah. You can find that in chapter 1, also in 6. Regardest thee not. That's not even the truth. Daniel regarded the king eminently. That's how he got to the position where he was. He respected the king. The people that didn't respect the king are the people that tricked the king into making a law he didn't want to make. Oh, sometimes people will say of you when you do what's right, that which is what they are who do what's wrong. Wow. Regardest not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but makest his petition 3 times a day. Did you gather 3 times to make sure I was going to do it all day long? Or did you see me do it once and expected me to do it 2 more? Because you knew my habits and my custom. Then the king, when he heard these words, was sore displeased. You know why? He'd been conned. He'd been had. Darius liked Daniel. He wouldn't have made that law if he would have known the only person it was going to get was Daniel. But the law was made and it got Daniel. And he's saying, I can't change it. Why not? You could make it. I can't change it. He was sore displeased with himself. That's to his credit. He didn't blame everybody that was around him. They made me do it. He blamed himself. I made a mistake. I allowed these people to con me. I have been used to do something that is wrong. That's what Daniel is saying. What the king is saying, Darius is saying. And he set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. He thought, how can I fix what I've done that is wrong? Then these men assembled unto the king and said unto the king, Know, O king, that the law of the Medes and the Persians is that no decree nor statute which the king established may be changed. They remind him of the law. No, you can't fix it. They could see that he knew he'd been conned and it bothered him. But oh no, you can't fix it. Then the king commanded, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. Now the king spake and said unto Daniel, Thy God whom thou servest continually. They knew what Daniel's values were. He will deliver thee. But the king didn't believe it. He's trying to convince Daniel because it'll make him feel better. But the king didn't believe it. How do I know? I know he didn't believe it because of the way he continues to act. Watch and see if you don't agree. And a stone was brought and laid upon the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring. Sealed, like Ephesians 1:14, we were sealed with the Holy Spirit. Ooh. And with the signet of his lords, that the purpose might not be changed concerning Daniel. No one can rescue Daniel. Not a man on earth can rescue Daniel. Oh, you said it differently the second time. You're right. Because there was one in heaven that could rescue Daniel. You know what? That screams at me. If there's ever a situation where no one on earth can help the situation, but there's a God in heaven that can help the situation, who do I need to give my life to? Not men on earth, but the God that's in heaven. Wow. 18. Then the king went to his palace and passed the night fasting. He was upset. He said, I won't eat tonight. Neither were no happiness, instrument of music brought before him. His sleep went from him. That's called a bad conscience. I can't sleep. I don't want any happiness around me. I don't want anything to eat. That's called bad conscience. But now we see the plan backfire. The last of my outline points. Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste unto the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. You know, I find that so interesting how God works. And now the king is lamentable. You know what? King living in a palace. We think of that as happiness and ease. We got a king living in a palace that's having a terrible time because he's not done what was correct. And we've got a fella in a lion's den that's having no trouble at all because he has done what is right. Boy, that screams at me as to the decisions I need to make. And when he came to the den, he cried with a lamentable voice unto Daniel. And the king spake and said to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, is thy God whom thou servest continually? What a compliment to Daniel. Able to deliver thee from the lion. He was unsure, but boy, he wanted it to happen. Then said Daniel unto the king, O king, live forever. You know what that felt like to Darius? After restlessness all night, nothing to eat, nothing happy around him, and he hears Daniel, who he knew should be gone. Say, King, live forever. My God hath sent his angel. Ties in with a study that Josh has been helping us with. People say, I don't believe in angels. Really? Really? I bet you Daniel believed in angels. Are they not ministering spirits sent forth to minister to us? Hebrews 1:14. I bet you Daniel believed in angels. My God hath sent his angel and hath shut the lions' mouths. Text doesn't tell me how. Boy, I wish I knew how he pulled that off. But he got it done. That they have not hurt me, for as much as before him innocency was found in me. That's what I want for me, to be found innocent before God. And I'm not going to worry about what man has to say about me. I'm going to be worried about God has to say about me. Innocency before God. Whew. And also before thee, O king, have I done no hurt. You know, the Hebrew writer stamped approval on this. Hebrews 11:33. When he was talking in the chapter we know to be the faith chapter, that by faith he could stop the mouths of lions. I read that for a long time before I realized what he was saying exactly. By faith. Daniel's faith in God stopped the mouths of the lions. I don't know what he did, but I know he got it done. Watch. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him. Hallelujah. You didn't deserve it, Daniel. I'm glad they didn't eat. The liberal comes along and says, Well, somebody sedated the lion. Really? Watch the rest of the story. Well, the lions had already been fed and they weren't hungry. Really? Watch the rest of the story. Mr. Liberal, that won't work for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him, because he believed in his God. Your translation may be, because he trusted in his God. You know what? That begs me to say, how hard was it to trust God there? Sometimes you and I are put in predicaments that it's hard to trust God. It's hard to... Daniel could have sold out for 30 days. No, he couldn't. Daniel could have said, I will catch up every one of these prayers that I don't pray. But he didn't. Daniel could have said everything that I have said in times when compromise was easier than courage. But he didn't. I underline because he trusted in his God, because I love that. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel. Look at there. Look at there. And they cast them into the den of lions, them and their children and their wives. And the lions had the mastery of them, and break all their bones in pieces, or ever they came to the bottom of the den. They didn't even hit the bottom. The lions had them eaten. Were they hungry? Mm-hmm. Somebody sedate them? Mm-mm. What did they see in Daniel that they wanted no part of? They saw in Jehovah that they needed to obey. And again, it preaches to me. I see in Jehovah that I ought to obey. Then King Darius wrote unto all people, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, peace be multiplied unto you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, and steadfast forever, and his kingdom that which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall be even unto the end. He delivereth and rescueth, and he worketh signs and wonders in heaven and in earth. Who hath delivered Daniel from the power of the lions? So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Vindication for those that trust. Vindication for those who trust. I may not be vindicated on earth, but I will be vindicated if I trust. Vindication for those who trust. Boy, I'm hoping that sinks into my head. And I mean my head. You can put it in yours if you want. I hope it sinks into my head when I find temptation to compromise. Vindication for those who trust. He didn't say that my heart wouldn't be broken when I'm thrown into a den in a situation that I'm expecting to lose my life. What did Daniel feel? I think Daniel felt fear. I think Daniel felt apprehension. I think Daniel thought, Lord, if you want to feed your lions with me, it's good with me. Because what I really want is to be with you eternally. So we're going to feed your lions with me. But he knew he would ultimately be vindicated. Do we hear that? God didn't promise us we'd be vindicated in every trial. If not vindicated in this trial, I will ultimately be vindicated if I trust in Him who is God that made the heavens and the earth. Wow. I love the way the book talks to me. I've allowed it to talk to me and hoped you were listening. And I realize that vindication will ultimately be mine if I will but trust in Him. Oh, there's some caveats in there, some things to be done and things to do, and we'll handle them at another time. But I wanted to get the big principle out for us. Vindication ultimately for all those who trust. If you're not a Christian, or if there's something you want us to pray about or talk about, try to share the weight of a burden you carry, you let us know and we'll try to do it with all that in us is. We believe in the Jehovah of Daniel and believe hopefully as deeply as Daniel believed in his Jehovah. Unashamedly, hopefully, always do we adore our God and give Him first place in our lives. Mm-hmm. If that's something you wish for yourself, adopt it. It's yours. Adopt it. It's yours. And if there's anything we can do to assist you, let us know, and we will try to be helpful. As together we stand and sing.